Hello, everyone. My name is Padmini Nidumolu, and I'm the co-founder of Lean and Agile for women, of women, by women, to bring the women across the world who are working in agile and lean organizations and in those spaces to come together on a common platform so we can support each other, so we can build this global coalition, so we are not alone in this journey. We can learn from each other, we can get inspired by each other's journeys, stories, and challenges. And most importantly, have that cultural backdrop of where we all come from. It's a global community, also a very close-knit community, and we can learn so much from each other's journey and each other's cultural limitations and challenges, etc. Having said that, LIA100 is an initiative brought in under this umbrella to honor, recognize, celebrate the journeys of 100 women across the world. And as part of that initiative today, we have Lakshmi Chirravuri from Bangalore, India, and she's doing some amazing work in India. And we wanted to bring her in and have this conversation so she can inspire more women in India and across the world. Welcome, Lakshmi. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Padmini. I'm honored and humbled to be over here. Thank you.
Honor is all ours, Lakshmi. Let me make a quick introduction about yourself and we can go into the conversation.
Sure.
Lakshmi is Agile PeopleOps Framework Accredited Trainer. It's also called APF. She's the co-founder and learning and development advisor at Culturelligence. She's passionate about building a shared learning community through this organization. She's accredited in conducting organizational culture and effectiveness assessments. Lakshmi serves as a working committee member for Agile PeopleOps. She extends voluntary research support to Business Agility Institute, and in 2019, she co-authored Hiring for Culture, white paper with her BAI peers, which is Business Agility Institute peers. Lakshmi contributed towards Agile 2 movement in 2020. In March 2021, she was appointed as a council member for India-South Korea Bilateral Council at Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. That is incredible start to our conversation here, Lakshmi. Let's understand from you. How did Agile HR or Agile People Ops happen? Because this is an unconventional space until like 10 years ago, right? Agile was and is very prominent in the software development and delivery space, right? So you think of incremental delivery, you think of development process and life cycle. And I think with the advent of business agility, we started talking about the other aspects of organizational agility. Tell us what brought you into people ops and why it is important.
Okay, sure. So for that, I have to go back into my professional journey.
Yes.
I should say, like, I have worked mainly in the HR, like recruitment and HR operations area, having worked with companies like Panduit, IBM, and having interacted with be it hiring managers, be it account managers and other people, or even candidates for that matter. I found that the psychology aspect is very important for a true HR professional. We really need to understand the human psyche of individuals if we have to get that connect established. So that motivated me to look into psychology. I was doing a lot of research as to how can I go ahead and pursue, studies in psychology. After doing all that kind of explorations, I landed in the Chicago School of Professional Psychology in USA. So initially I had got admission in applied behavior analysis, but then that didn't fit with my organizational experience of 11 years at that point of time, only because it was more towards autism related and other, aspects. So I decided I need to make that move, and I got into industrial organizational psychology. So that was my second master's, I should say. It was pretty overwhelming being in US and, after so many years going ahead and doing my education. But anyways, it was a wonderful journey. And it was during that period, I should say, of my studying on one of the module, which is training and development, I decided that I need to do something different in terms of my presentation, my paper, research, and all. So I was just browsing and accidentally came across, like I knew Agile was there in the software area, in the development area, but then I came across organizational agility, and then the Agile aspect as such. And I wondered to myself that if these are the philosophy, right, this is the philosophy of Agile, right, delivering value to customers, then who are HR's customers, right? Obviously the candidates, the employees. Okay. And I had to look back to what I had experienced, and I had seen other HR professionals. I had to contemplate too that there is this lot of stereotypes, right? That HRs are not great people. They are not employee friendly. They just don't know how to have that empathetic connection, right? And Agile, on the other hand, it talks about value. It talks about meaningful value, right? With keeping the customers centrally focused and working at not being always perfect in our projects. So all these thought processes, I should say, made me to connect with people with agile cultures. And we were talking through this, and then it so happened that I presented on organizational agility in my school. Like in US, we call them, call the colleges as schools. So I presented over there, and that boosted my confidence that I'm on the right track with respect to my thought processes. And really, we should fuse those agile practices into the HR function. And I connected with Naveen, and Naveen was talking about Agile PeopleOps. And so everything fell into place, I should say, and the journey started. And I feel I really did that and made that right decision, or thanks to those thought processes and thanks to my school. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with where I am at this point of time and seeing that we are on the right track and we really need to bring in this agility aspect into the HR function. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Looks like you really did that grassroots level, interest, which really propelled right from your education. It came from the academics, and then it got you interested in the people side of agility, which is great. I think we need more of it right now, right, than ever before, because I think pandemic is offering different possibilities, and I think we are in a much different space to deal with people, policies, and whatnot than ever before. So something that is so valuable. That's great. And tell us a little bit about the paper that you published for BAI. What was it? And also, if you can throw light on how we can kind of contribute to papers such as hiring for culture, etc. And why is it important to contribute to the papers? I know it's a lot of questions, but if you can just throw light on that experience as a whole.
Sure. So again, I met Ivan, through LinkedIn connections. And he was at that point of time looking for people who would love to volunteer in working on papers, doing a lot of research. And I love research. I'm really passionate about research. You just tell me to do research day in, day out. I would just do that and then come up with thought processes or my analysis and all. So I just couldn't say no to Ivan. We got into that conversation, I must say. And thankfully, I would say, after a whole lot of, pool of individuals, coming together and working on this paper, we threw a lot of thought processes, based on what are those challenges, what topics we need to come up with on a paper. And slowly, steadily, I would say, through different conversations, and we were following the sprint in its own way. In sprints, we were connecting, we were talking through, sharing our ideas, and it kind of, automatically narrowed down to hiring for culture part, because the four individuals, including me, two of us were having that expertise in recruitment, like myself and Stavros. Brunello is awesome in talking about personality, people aspect, experiences, and Jakob, being an agile coach, he came through in his own way, talking about how it should, what should be those assessments, or what should it be looking like, to create a realistic kind of, realistic way of assessing the candidates. So all four of us, things just sparked, I should say. We got connected not only at the paper level, but individually, that the relationship that gets established, right, of respect, trust, and integrity. So we four got together, we did our research, and the culture piece only came in because we have seen in our own way that that's very important, right? We need to really hire individuals, companies earlier, right, Padmini, they used to look whether an individual is fitting the value of the organization, So that is called as a culture fit. But now, and that's good, according to, I would say, Adam Grant, it's good, but only for startup organizations, because, we are very, like, startups are very small in number, and things move very aggressively, and you want people who mirror your values, right,
Right.
to get that momentum. Howsoever, as the organization matures, grows, right, we just can't keep having individuals with the same values. We need values that can add more to the organization, to the decision making, or to the leadership. And that's how we decided that the culture ad should also be a part and parcel of the hiring process. So that's how, our hiring for culture, it talks about the people aspect, the kind of personalities that are out there, we have to be mindful of, people can be introvert, people can be extrovert, but then we have to assess them based on their personality and see where they can add value to the function. Then the culture add versus culture value. And we know very well, in fact, everybody who have been a part of hiring process at any given point of time, they have seen the disconnect, right, between the organizations, the feedback, and there's a lot of waiting period for the candidates to get the feedback. There is a disconnect between hiring managers and individuals, I should say, the recruiters for that matter, or the business partners. So we really wanted to bring that also into limelight in our paper and say that, what, training is important. Hiring managers, recruiters, and the entire key stakeholders who are involved in this process, right? They all have to come towards a working agreement. After all, why is this working agreement? Committing that we are there. This is, we are responsible for hiring an individual who can add value to the project. So we added all these to the paper, and yeah, it was a beautiful journey, and that's how hiring for culture came into existence. Ivan loved it, I must say. And before just enjoyed creating that, beautiful piece, I must say. So hopefully that answers the first question, I should say, right?
Yes. Congratulations on that, because I know how much effort goes into it.
Yes, yes. And it was like we really had to work it out, four people, different time zones. You can just imagine
I
how
can
it would
imagine
be,
right there. It's a scheduling nightmare. Yeah.
Yes, yes. But then, just things fell into place, right? Because we all were passionate about what we were doing. So we adjusted our schedules accordingly. So yeah, it was wonderful. The next piece is why white papers, or any paper for that matter, right? So It's important only because there is a lot of knowledge gaps, Padmini, based on what I have seen, right, or what I have experienced and others have experienced. These knowledge gaps can be because of the lack of experience, uh, or the lack of interaction with other people and many other aspects, right? And people are not ready to sit and do Google and kind of search through some of the important concepts. They just don't know, right, of what's coming out there. But if a team of researchers who are really passionate to bring about the new concepts, the new practices, or share their experiences, or maybe interview others and bend their experience and share it with everybody, maybe that would kind of ignite the sparks of better learning. And it in itself can somewhere create a learning agility, I would say, for individuals, right? So publishing papers, again, I would say, the flip side is that not everybody would love to read, right? So how can we make it interesting? Okay, like be it visuals, or be it, charts, or be it anything. And how can we create more excitement? What can we do to do that so that the paper, it's out there. It is a paper, but then you're supplementing it with different ways of, techniques that appeases different individuals, because people love to watch audios, they love to watch videos, okay, they love to read. So we have different people with different learning techniques, right? So how can we create this and bring it together? Because like for or maybe if we are talking in conferences or we are talking elsewhere, how can we share, right, our experiences and the white paper? So it really becomes important to come up with these papers so that it throws light, it addresses the gap that's there. And I still, it's crystal clear still, when Ivan had published it on LinkedIn, the hiring for culture, the kind of comments that were flowing in, right? Oh, wow, we never thought about this. Okay, Culture Act was there, but we never thought that it should be put. It's pretty serious and companies need to do something. Oh, okay, yes, hiring managers training. It's pretty small, but HR's companies ignore that, right? So it just throws light, it just ignites that spark. So it's good to come up with papers, bridge that knowledge gap, I should say. Yeah, that answers the second piece of the
Yeah, it
question.
does.
And
Yeah.
yeah, okay. And the third piece you were saying, the third question, sorry, what was that you had
No, I
asked?
was just saying, these are important, but, not everybody has, I would say, the inclination, or
Mhm.
there's always an excuse for bandwidth for most of us, right?
Uh-huh.
But I
Yes,
think
yes.
your answers for the first couple of questions really answered my third question, Lakshmi. I think, if I can summarize that, you mentioned that the learning opportunity for yourself while creating this paper, right? Coordinating with three or four other peers who are, of course, across the time zones, and scheduling is always a nightmare. But despite that, I think I would say the landscape of learning is so rich. It gets so much richer with the participants, contributing to the white paper. And that answered my third question as to why should an individual contribute towards the knowledge share, or, really bridging the gap. And you nailed it. You nailed it. You said, it not just gives back to the community and bridges that knowledge gap, but it actually enhances your own knowledge, because now suddenly you're, so deep in conversations, and getting triggered with the conversations, and just thinking in a different perspective. So that certainly answered all those questions, and it is so valuable, right, that
Yep.
we all need to be sharing at the same time growing. So it's a, I would say, a dual path that we all should embark on. That's fantastic. Thank you, Lakshmi. Now, I also know that you were a contributor to the Agile 2
Mhm.
initiative that was, launched in 2020. Tell us a little
Right.
bit about what took you to Agile 2. What do you
Okay.
that?
Okay. Again, one more story for that, right, Padmini? So I had trained Vincent, who's based in US, for APF certified people ops coach. So he got certified, and we started gelling together in terms of we both believe that agile in HR, in people operations, and non-people operations too is something really very, very important. So we got connected, we stayed in touch even after the program, got over and he got certified. And then out of the blue, right, one day he sent an email introducing me to Cliff Berg saying that Lakshmi can add value. You're looking at Agile 2 movement, and she strongly believes in the HR or the people operations piece. So why don't both of you connect? And Lakshmi, if you're interested, just connect with Cliff, have a chit chat, and see, if you would love to, support him. And I'm a part of the Agile too, he did mention. So I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. Let me jump on a call with Cliff Berg, right? So had a conversation. It was a beautiful conversation. We got connected again in terms of he really saying that, Agile should not be just limited to the development piece, right? The people operations piece should come. And today, if we see in many instances, things fail, right? I mean, we might be talking about processes, we might be talking about Scrum, sprints, Kanban, whatnot, everything. But then at the end of the day, right, with all these huddles, retrospectives, we are missing the people element part. So I shared that with Cliff, and I told him that, see, I don't come from the technical background, and I can't add value to your technicalities of Agile too. But then I would love to share about the people aspect because that's central. It's after all the people who are designing the products, services for the people, right? So he was full into it, and then that's how he wanted to understand if I would love to share my contribution about looking into the people aspect, looking into the culture piece, which is, like Agile will fail if the culture is not there, if the culture is
Yeah.
not appropriate, right? And transformation fails. So that's how it got started. I and Cliff connected, and then we had this long, lengthy conversation on brainstorming certain things. Yeah, that's how it got started, and we and in no time, I would say the Agile 2 movement happened and all that principles, values, everything got published. Yeah, it was wonderful, wonderful
Yeah,
conversation,
I'm
I should
sure.
say.
I'm sure because when I look at who contributed to it, it's a very diverse group of people, which actually I think makes a lot of sense, right? From across the globe and from across the industries, etc. Now that is truly fantastic. Um, I think before we wrap up, I have another question which I'm compelled to ask, which is, I originally come from south of India, right, southern part of India, and I know how male-dominated, patriarchal society, India as a whole in general, especially the south, is very, conventionally, patriarchic society, right? And I also know that even in the corporate world, it's not very common for a woman leader to really rise and shine. There are
Mhm.
so many limitations, at the home front, at the work front, and it's just such a dense layer to kind of fight through
Mhm.
to really, be visible and have
Yeah,
your voice heard. How
mhm.
did you make it happen? If you can tell us briefly.
Sure. I would own that to my parents, I should say, and even to my brother, to my family, in short, right? They were the ones who never stopped me from learning Padmini. From my childhood days, I would be given books, from my brother saying, "Go ahead, read these novels." And I was fan of fiction, tell me, name it, and I would have read those. Then things happen, school, work. And when I said, after my 10, 11 years of experience, I want to go into my, second master's, I didn't get get a complete no. My parents never objected to that. They were like, your life, go ahead, do it. They have seen the struggles, on my end. They too have seen the struggles, and they strongly believe that, be it a girl, be it a woman, we shouldn't stop her from rising if she's really inclined and determined to do that. So that's how things started, I would say, until date, right? They're really supportive of me. They just say that you have to be a role model for others, whom you're coming across, be an inspiration, we have learned from our struggles. And if you can share that, if you can be a thoroughly a professional person, nothing like it. So they are my, they inspire me, I should say. They have supported me, they inspire me, and that's why I'm over here. Because it takes a lot of sacrifice on the home part, right? On the personal front. So they have always been there supporting me, saying, work comes first, be dedicated in what you're doing. Yeah. Thanks to them, I should say. And I always tell everyone that I'm really grateful about my parents, my brother, and they mean a lot to me, I should say. Yeah. So thanks to them, and thanks to the Almighty Lord too. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. No, but that is fantastic. And you bring up a very valuable point, which is the basic structure, right? The framework of the immediate support system of your parents, or your partners, your siblings, your children. That is so very important for women, especially, to really step out of their comfort zone and reach their potential truly. Because if there are limitations in that space, it's very hard for a woman to kind of swim against the tide, and yet swim against the tide in the corporate world. So I think the message is really strong right there, that that support system needs to be strong for women to step out. Now, this is fantastic, Lakshmi. Thank you so much for your time. I'm just elated, I should say, that somebody from the place that I was born and raised is doing so well, and is really becoming a role model to other women in the agile space. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Padmini. It was a pleasure speaking to you, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.